DevOps also has a subdivision of three main parts. Um, we can talk about continuous integration, continuous delivery, and continuous deployment. In this video, we'll actually understand or try to define the differences between each one of them. When we talk about continuous integration, we are talking about integrating your changes or the changes you actually do to a certain project or code base into the repository. In order to implement continuous integration, we might actually need a versioning system. In regards to the versioning system, we can actually cherry pick between two options. The first is Git, and the second one is Mercurial. Most people actually use Git. Another very important aspect of continuous integration is the frequency. And the frequency basically means how many times a day or how many integrations we are doing into our repository. A high frequency in integration is very much recommended because it actually lowers the fix overhead if there is an imperfection and makes everything easier to debug if there are any bugs that you want to know about. We can visualize continuous integration as the first step, no matter if you want to implement continuous delivery or continuous deployment. You'll always actually need to implement continuous integration first. Another key aspect of continuous integration is that it has to have unit tests. Without unit testing in between, there is no way to know if your code actually works. And remember that during the process of continuous integration, continuous delivery and continuous deployment, unit tests basically are going to prevent us from introducing unwanted regressions. After implementing continuous integration in your company, you can actually move to continuous delivery. Continuous delivery is the second step in the DevOps delivery pipeline. Even though this is not a serial set of steps, which means that you can actually jump from continuous integration to continuous delivery or continuous deployment immediately. Continuous delivery is the most implemented way to integrate your code into a production environment now used by companies nowadays. A very important characteristic of continuous delivery, well, if of course that you'll need continuous integration first. But the most important part of continuous delivery is that there is a human factor in between, which means that it is not fully automated. And people at your company are going to have the last word whether something in production is decent enough to actually reach the final stage. So this is more about a human interaction between your repository and the stages and the environments you have. And with continuous delivery, you'll have a business constraint, which is very important. Continuous delivery implements a manual deployment. That means that a person will actually have to choose whether something actually passes. The next step in the DevOps chain of events is continuous deployment. When we talk about continuous deployment, we're talking about a fully automated process. Of course, it depends also on continuous integration first. But the main difference between continuous delivery and continuous deployment is that the latter is fully automated, which means that there is no human factor in between. And any change you do to your code base will get to production immediately. Of course, after making sure it works. The process of making sure if works or not is automated, and it's actually heavily based on unit testing as well. Continuous deployment actually follows a continuous improvement path, and it is heavily advised that there is a rollback mechanism just in case something that wasn't expected to actually reach production did. As you can actually see that we can reach either a continuous delivery or continuous deployment right from continuous integration. The difference between each one of them is that continuous delivery is semi-automated, while continuous deployment is full automation. Which one to choose will depend heavily on the context of your company and the decision-making process that any person in charge of making sure that things work and deciding whether something reaches production or not.